Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Citizens of the World. As you know, we are all of us the residents of a swiftly shrinking globe. What were once local is fast becoming global, and our decisions and opinions resonate well beyond our own borders. Join me, your host, Al Zucaro, from the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere, Boca Raton, Florida, in sunny South Florida, where we will explore topics for a pointed look at politics, immigration, culture, and what it means to be a citizen of the world. As you know, on a weekly basis, we explore actually three particular areas. The first area that we will talk about tonight is immigration as a basis for economic development. Then we will talk about culture as a precursor to international commerce. And finally, we will make the argument that the greater area of Boca Raton, Florida, is really a wonderful place to be, to locate, to operate your business, and to affect, on a hemispheric basis, the business and commerce that your company so rightfully deserves. Tonight, I'd like to focus on a company called Florida Crystals. Florida Crystals is an incredible company. It started with two Cuban refugees back in the late 1950s, early 1960s. So for 50 years now, the Fanjul brothers have been operating Florida Crystals here in Palm Beach County as people that escaped the pressures of the communist regime in Cuba that still exists till today. Florida Crystals owns and or controls approximately 150,000 acres of land here in Palm Beach County in the western reaches. They are the largest sugar producer, I believe, in the country, and they have acquired brands such as Domino and other sugar brands around the country that they provide the raw materials for. They are a major user of our Port of Palm Beach, where they ship out raw sugar and molasses, and they employ hundreds of people here in Palm Beach County. Over the years, Florida Crystals has been an incredible example of how immigration has helped develop economic business, and they have evolved now into an organization that is multinational. They're located in many countries around the world, and it's estimated that their volume on a yearly basis exceeds $5 billion. They are located here in Palm Beach County, a multinational corporation worthy of our respect. The reason that I wanted to talk about them today is recently in Florida Trend magazine, the current edition, there is an acknowledgement about Florida Crystals as a trusted partner in the community. I recommend all of you should go to to Florida Trend. I'm sure you can pick it up electronically, and take a look at what is talked about. And what you find there is a company that has dedicated a serious amount of effort, time, and money to education and the development of opportunities for the community and on a community outreach way. You'll see that in the Glades area of Florida, which is one of the most economically depressed areas of Palm Beach County for sure, and the state of Florida in general, that they have provided as much in the way of education and employment opportunity as a company of their stature and size can do. And they're looking well into the future for more opportunities. You'll find that they have created New Hope Charities, which is a grassroots, not-for-profit organization that serves the communities of Western Palm Beach and was founded by the Fanjul family, providing services from daycare to after-school care to health care and food assistance programs. Florida Crystals provides ongoing food donations and financial support, as well as land donations for New Hope family health, education, and centers in Pahokee, Florida. Now, Pahokee, Florida is one of the Tri-Cities. The Tri-Cities are South Bay, Belglade, and Pahokee. The economic impacts in those communities and the level of poverty is extremely high. Palm Beach County is a very unique place. If you draw a diagonal line from the center of town in the town of Palm Beach, which is either the first or second highest zip code per capita income in the United States, and draw that direct line 50 miles approximately to southwest Florida, to the center of activity in the city of Belle Glade, where the economics figures are incredibly different. We're talking about unemployment in the area of 30+%. We're talking about a literacy rate that is off the charts. We're talking about people that are seriously in need of economic assistance and economic opportunity. Inside of that, there has been a significant amount of activity on the part of Florida Crystals over the years. Over the years, they have been a major contributor and provider of sugar, as I've indicated. They employed many, many people. In the late 80s and early 90s, they actually retooled their company for efficiencies, and they have actually caused some of those jobs to evaporate. They were a major user of immigration and the H-2B, or the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program, and that has come to an end. Those programs are very cumbersome, very expensive, and companies in the private sector are always looking for ways to cut their costs, reduce their overheads, and become more profitable for their owners and shareholders. Florida Crystals has been an excellent example of that. In the recent past, over the last 5 years or so, Florida Crystals has been a major proponent of creating an intermodal logistics center in the Glades area to get ready for and then service the increased activities that are anticipated with the expansion of the Panama Canal and the dredging of the Port of Miami, for purposes of accepting the large barges that will be bringing new business, new enterprise, and new commerce from the Orient through the canal, with Miami being the first port on the southeast sector of the United States on the Atlantic side, able to accept those opportunities and compete with the larger ports like Savannah and Virginia and New Jersey, giving us a tremendous economic boost here in South Florida. If you go out, if you were to look at the area in southwest Palm Beach County, you'll find that now South Florida Intermodal Logistics Center has been entitled by Palm Beach County on an 850-acre parcel of land for an industrial project located in unincorporated western Palm Beach County. This project anticipates that there will be 9 million plus square feet of distribution centers and warehousing space, creating opportunities for jobs and economic development in an area of great need and great concern. So what you'll find when you go out to this area and you look at it is that with the roadways and the railways and now the dredging of the Port of Miami, the interior corridor of the state of Florida along Route 27 south of Lake Okeechobee actually provides an opportunity to create a logistics center for cargo and for big box users that will allow both an intra and interstate commerce activity and an activity that is consistent with my philosophy that South Florida, particularly Boca Raton, but expanded to South Florida for this comment, is the economic epicenter for the Western Hemisphere. You'll find that the railroads, the railroad lines that currently exist are within a day's ride by train to the Port of Fort Pierce, the Port of Palm Beach, Port Everglades, Miami, and if you look a little bit to the west, Port Manatee and Port Tampa. So intra-state movement of cargo and goods becomes a lot more efficient when you are traveling east-west on the roadways to the ports, to some of the 14 deep water ports in the state of Florida, and taking some of the traffic off of the north-south corridors of I-75 and I-95. So I commend you to take a look at Florida Crystals. I commend you to go out to their website and see what they're doing. Do a little investigation about the South Florida Regional Intermodal Center, which is already part of the public record, and you'll find that the Florida Crystals Company has come a long way and gone in a great direction to provide a public service along with their private interest, the public service being to create an opportunity for economic development, job creation, and educational opportunities. This company should be commended for all of its efforts, and I think that they are absolutely terrific in what they do. With all of that said, I'd like to take a short break, and we'll be back in a little while. Welcome back, folks. I'd like to take the opportunity now to talk a little bit about culture as a precursor to commerce. Major topic in my mind. Absolutely one of the greatest drivers of economic development is a good cultural environment. Also, it is just as important for young people to be able to appreciate the humanities and the arts as it is for them to be able to appreciate how to play baseball, football, or kick a soccer ball. So I am a major proponent that local government needs to encourage and assist in the development of not-for-profit opportunities. Now, with that said, I want to also say the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that not-for-profits should not think about themselves as not-for-profits. I actually would like to see the whole phrase nonprofit discarded and not used any longer, and use the phrase tax exempt as a different, to set a different tone. Reason? Just because you're a tax exempt organization does not mean that you should not operate on a for-profit basis. Because in a for-profit company, you take the profit and you distribute it to the owners or the shareholders. In a tax-exempt organization, you should take excess revenues over costs and use that to create your endowments and to create your budget, reinvest in your operation, make it better, make it more efficient, and make it dependent upon itself instead of dependent upon government as a line item or as a contributor or as a savior. Too many tax-exempt organizations operate under the not-for-profit mode, wait for crisis, and then go to local government and explain why local government needs to save them from themselves. So I am not a big fan of the not-for-profit attitude. I want to tell you that recently I had an opportunity to facilitate a tax-exempt organization's retreat. We started from the proposition that there are 4 basic questions that permeate any tax-exempt organization's efforts. Those questions have to be answered in an affirmative way and in a positive way for tax-exempt organizations to succeed. So what are those questions? First one is the work that we are doing important? Well, if you can answer that question yes and demonstrate why, that's a very positive sign. Second question is, are we well managed? And are we effective at what we do? Well, the answer to that question has to be in the affirmative as well, because the third question is, why What assurances can we give to our donors, to our gifters, to our sponsors, to anyone that is contributing resources in the way of time, effort, or money, that their time, effort, and money is not going to be wasted? And then finally, we have to give the gifter, the donor, the sponsor some level of satisfaction that they in fact gave to an organization that was performing important work, doing it in a well-managed way, and using the resources effectively. So I'm going to go back to my notion that Boca Raton is a place for that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Schmidt Family Center for the Arts and the Festival of the Arts that is their major contributor. I also am going to talk a little bit about my notion that that culture and cultural activities in the arts and the humanities are an economic driver for a community. We've made that argument in its theoretical form over the last couple of weeks, but I've done a little research and I wanted to talk about two things. The first thing I want to talk about is a report that I uncovered in my research that dates back all the way to the early 2001-2002 era, when Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York, and he made a major investment in the arts of the city of New York. Subsequent to that investment, and over this period of time, studies have been done. So I'm going to read to you something that was part of this report that I uncovered. It says, to cite just one example, McKinsey & Company estimates that the new Guggenheim Museum proposed for Lower Manhattan would attract 2.5 million visitors annually, earn $570 million in revenues for the city of New York, generate from 4,300 to 5,500 permanent new jobs, and produce $26 million per year in tax revenues. What an incredible investment, return on investment, for a mayor who recognized then and recognizes even today the value of a artistic, humanitarian, and cultural experience within the great city of New York. Now, a little bit further up the road and more current is in August of 2010, there was a study produced in St. Petersburg, Florida. The title of the study was Economic Impact of Arts and Culture in St. Petersburg. And you'll find in that study that I'll read you the paragraph, the relevant paragraph. The following report was prepared by Professor Corton from the College Business of the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. The report provides information on a direct and indirect economic impact of the 32 arts and cultural organizations in St. Petersburg area. Together, these organizations attracted a total of 1.3 million visitors in 2009, generating total revenues of $25 million plus dollars. At least 25% of these visitors came from outside the St. Petersburg area. The 32 organizations contributed with approximately $16 million in direct spending in the city and $7.4 million in indirect spending, for a total economic impact of $23.3 million in 1 year. These organizations were responsible for 519 jobs directly and indirectly. There is no doubt, and I offer these reports as evidence, empirical evidence, that culture creates economic opportunity. So the thesis that I'm offering as part of this show suggests that in the greater Boca Raton area, economic activity will thrive in a significant way through the investment of time, energy, and in some cases money to the arts and to culture. Examples that we can see. We've talked a little bit about Lynn University. Lynn University this year opened up the walled WULD Center for the Performing Arts. If you listen to them talk, to the university spokesman speak, they'll tell you that in the first year they brought over 23,000 people to the Performing Arts Center for the various programmings that were done. The economic impacts of that have not been measured, or at least I have not seen the measurements done yet, but I'm sure that the college will put that together eventually through their international student and international business courses, and have that as a means to talk about economic development through the arts. I'd also like to talk about the Festival of the Arts, and I'd like to read some extracts from a 2011 report that was just done. And what you'll find there is that statements have been made that the opening act, the Canadian Brass, was well received by the audience, hands down the best ever classical ensemble performance presented by the festival in Boca. Another quote, Milos is a guitarist, was literally a once-in-a-lifetime experience for those who attended. Ballet Hispanico, incredible. Was exceeded our most optimistic expectations and went a considerable distance to solidifying the festival's bona fides with regards to dance. Piano Latino, I have to tell you folks, I was there for this event. It was just incredible. It was a jam session which was literally over the moon, quote unquote. While the show went longer than expected, most of the audience stayed to what some described as the bitter end. Then, The Wizard of Oz. What did they do this year? They took the movie The Wizard of Oz, put it on a big screen, showed it in the amphitheater, and had the Boca Sinfonia Orchestra play the score while the movie was playing. And then finally, the night at the opera, where they brought in the fantastic performance of Jackie Evancho, who was nothing short of terrific. If you know Jackie Evancho, she was on America's Got Talent. She's 11 years old and she sings opera as if she was born and came out of the womb singing. The Festival of the Arts is now preparing for its 2012. It has announced its dates. The dates will be March 9th through March 17th. Therefore, the final day of the festival will actually be St. Patrick's Day. Well, I can think of a number of ties to that, but just remember in my last discussion we talked about education, and I talked about the Festival of the Arts, and I talked about Lynn University's relationship to the Irish American University in Dublin, and I'm sure that there will be some kind of tie-in to that. And I'd like to end the show by reporting in a very positive note. The Festival of the Arts just recently had a showing where they brought in a group. The name of the group was Quadetto Gelato. This is a group out of Canada. They were absolutely fantastic. It was designed as a follow-up to the March Festival of the Arts. It's a precursor to opportunities that will be hosted in the Meisner Cultural Center in downtown Boca Raton. And this in the Black Box Theater that holds up to 350 people. And it is anticipated that over the next year we'll be using the festival, the Center for the Arts will be using the Black Box Theater to do 2 shows a month for an 8-month period of time regularly, and then the final Festival of the Arts being performed in March. This event with the Gelato Group actually turned a profit and demonstrated that the notion of not-for-profit can now be captured in the notion of tax-exempt with entrepreneurial spirits, entrepreneurial platforms, and the demand on the part of management to earn income through the opportunities that it presents. The Festival of the Arts has gone a long way, and its new leadership and its new board of directors are insisting on answering my 4 questions in the affirmative way. Are we doing important work? The answer to that is clearly yes. Culture, humanities, the arts, incredibly important in a community to brand it. Are we managed efficiently? The answer is yes. We are now operating on a tax-exempt entrepreneurial platform that requires each event to self-sustain and contribute to the overall good of the Schmidt Family Center for the Arts organization. Are we using resources from our donors, our sponsors, and our board members effectively? Undoubtedly, the answer to that will be yes. And finally, is there a satisfaction level for getting involved? No question. The satisfaction level is to demonstrate to the community, to brand the city of Boca Raton as the cultural center of the South Florida and the international capital for culture, along with being the international capital for education and the international capital for business of Palm Beach County. Therefore, I offer unequivocally that Boca Raton is the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere. And finally, I have two kudos and one KO. Kudu. The kudu goes to John Ellis Bush, Jr., 27 years old, the son of our former governor, and his friend David Cardenas, who have been aggressively working to bring the Hispanic population into the political atmosphere for the GOP, and of course I'm a supporter of the GOP. And then I would like to point out that the Brazilian Bar Association has entered the fray and has representation now here in Florida. And then finally, the KO of the day cannot be overlooked. Representative Wiener and his episodes here in the United States absolutely cannot go without being mentioned. What was this man thinking? What kind of model were we setting for our children? And how degrading this performance is as a follow-up to many others for our children and our adults who now have another reason to lose respect for the leadership of this country. Come on, guys, get your act together. What are you thinking? Please. Thank you very much.